This week's episode is brought to you by Vacation 24 Radio, playing all your vacation hits from favorite theme parks, including tunes from Disney, Universal, SeaWorld, and much more. Tune in today at v24radio.com. And us, we're on it now, again, every Tuesday at noon at Walt Disney World time. Check us out!
Communicore Weekly. Come on and get geeky. We bob around boats and five-legged goats. Communicore Weekly. You might catch some freaking. You waited all week. I'm sure you already know that it's the greatest online show.
Hello and welcome to Communicore Weekly, the greatest online show. I'm George.
And I'm Jeff. And before we actually get into the episode today, we wanted to do a couple of little shout-outs to Communicore cadets out there.
Ooh, not like housekeeping, some shout-outs.
Yes, no housekeeping this time around. Only shout-outs, so all fun. So I meant to say this a couple weeks ago, but we got so wrapped up in other things. But this is a shout-out for Kevin Rast, who is a great Communicore cadet, and he actually made us a really cool Communicore Weekly movie poster.
Yes.
And with Kevin's permission, I'm going to post it on the website, communicoreweekly.com, so everybody can see it. It's really cool. I like it. And it says we're in 3D, which is obviously the best time to see us.
Well, we are in 3D.
Well, and all the time we're in 3D, but
All the time,
the
yeah.
movie, Communicore Weekly, the movie
The
is
movie
in 3D.
itself, yes. I liked who is playing in the movie, too.
Yes, that Jeff fellow is devastatingly handsome.
Yeah. Anyways, moving along to the next shout-out.
Yes. Speaking of devastatingly handsome, this guy wants to knock out someone's devastatingly handsome's library and make one of his own, and that's Drake Ward, who wants to beat George's library one day. One day. How many books do you have now?
We're over 790.
790. Drake, how many do you have?
He's got a long. I bet he can do it. He's young. I bet he can do it. He could be a contender.
Hey, you
He could be a contender.
better get started, buddy.
You know,
better hurry
the
up.
obvious way would be to knock me out. Actually, it would be to, charm his way into my family, get ridden into the will, and then have me taken out.
This got really weird really quickly.
Yeah, that'd be kind of odd when that happened. So, but I say go for it. Nothing wrong with having a humongous library.
Yeah, exactly. Chicks dig libraries.
Yes, they do.
As we all know. What else we got? Okay, so maybe there are a little bit of house cleaning that we have to say as well. As we mentioned in the ad before the show, we are back on Vacation 24 Radio. You can catch us every Tuesday at noon, Walt Disney World time, to hear the latest episode.
Yeah, and as well as other fantastic theme park music as well.
Yeah, so
'Cause
when
we love it.
when you're sitting at your desk at work and you want to listen,
Especially when you need a hit.
Yes,
Basically,
your
you
Disney theme park hit. Go to v24radio.com to check that out.
Yep.
And-
And we also got to tell them about the contest.
Yeah, I mean, we've been getting a lot of hits on the contest. We've got a lot of entries so far. So if you haven't entered yet, you have until, what we say, July 4th?
Yes, midnight on July 4th, we're giving away 4 Blu-ray packs, which are the My Neighbor Totoro, Howl's Moving Castle, Disney Nature Oceans, and the Disney Parks Blu-ray set. And all you have to do to enter is go to iTunes and leave us a rating. Leave us a review, a written review. Then email us at communicoreweekly@gmail.com with your username, the date, and the review. Because sometimes it takes a couple days for the reviews to show up on iTunes. Something we've discovered. Or you can send friends over to the Communicore Weekly Facebook page, have them like it, and tell us that you sent them.
Exactly. And all that information is over on communicoreweekly.com as well, in case you didn't, you're driving right now and you can't do it now. So you could do it later and check it out. But good luck to everyone who entered. And I guess we should get on with the show then.
Let's do it.
It's time for Disney History.
Okay, yes, I know the segment is called It's Time for Disney History, but this week we wanted to branch out just a little bit and check out some of the other local theme parks because
And plus it costs way too much money to re-record the bumper.
yeah, exactly. So we don't have that kind of dough. We're too busy paying for the newly price hiked tickets at all the Disney theme parks. So Disney isn't the only park that has a theme park rich in history, and as we talked about back in episode 70, there were plenty of other theme parks that existed before Disneyland even came along. So for this segment, we're going to take a look at another iconic Southern California theme park, and that's Knott's Berry Farm, specifically the Timber Mountain Log Ride.
Well, it's called the Timber Mountain Log Ride now, but it was originally called the Calico Log Ride. And Bud Hurlbut and his father, Ray Hurlbut, who are big names if you know anything about themed attractions, began working on the basic idea for the attraction almost 5 years before construction on the ride began. Bud already had a lot of success with the Calico Mine Ride, which focused on the troubles of the gold miners at Knott's Berry Farm. Well, not the gold miners at Knott's Berry Farm.
But the ride at Knott's Berry Farm.
But the ride, because I don't think there were a lot of miners. Oh, anyways. So
Well, I'm sure there were miners because a lot of kids go... Oh, the other miners.
There were those different types of miners.
Okay, got it.
So let's see, I don't want to... It opened in 1960. Yes, so they've been working on it about 5 years before then. He dug into California history again for the Calico Log Ride and discovered a connection between the lumber industry and the gold rush.
Now, for those of you who don't know, the gold rush was a big deal back in the day, and after thousands of people flocked to California in search of gold, two really big problems arose. The first was the lack of building materials for the new settlers to use, and there was a lack of enough gold to go around for everybody that was there. That's kind of a problem. Now, because the miners had no building materials, they had to improvise a way in order to create them, and so many of them turned to the lumber industry, and because these building materials were in such demand, they actually found a lot more profit in lumber than they would have from the depleted gold streams.
Interesting. Much easier to find trees.
Yes, exactly.
Much easier. So
I'm looking at a couple right now.
So usually the very first sawmills built anywhere were built on riverbanks. Lumberjacks would cut the trees along the banks, roll the logs into the water, and then float them to the mill. Makes sense. So when the supply of trees along the riverbanks had been completely cut down, the lumberjacks turned to the trees a little more inland. Unfortunately, they didn't have any equipment to carry the heavy logs back to the streams to float them upriver, so that led to the development of the flume. And looking at this, you can definitely see how this type of thing could naturally translate into a ride.
Yeah, exactly. However, it wasn't planned as a flume ride at first. Bud wanted the ride to be as thrilling and historically accurate as the rides taken by the loggers when moving the trees back to the mill, but not as inherently dangerous because...
Probably a good thing.
Yeah, very, very good thing. So the original idea was for it to be a roller coaster and make it appear as if the car was floating in a trough. But Walter Knott, who was the owner of Knott's Berry Farm, he was not interested in that idea at all. So Bud went back to the drawing board, and after talking with his friends Ed Morgan and Carl Bacon from Arrow Development, it was proposed that the ride be a log ride, and as we know it today.
So Bud, Ed, and Carl all worked together to create a model of it and presented the idea to Walter Knott again, who turned it down again. Yeah, go figure. Thankfully, this still didn't deter Bud. He took the opportunity to work out the financing for the ride and work out all the bugs as well. And at the same time, Arrow Development fine-tuned the log ride system and sold it to Six Flags Over Texas in 1963. After that version was up and running, Bud brought the idea to Walter Knott for a third time, which hopefully will be the charm. He explained that, unlike Six Flags Over Texas, he wanted the Knott's version to have a fully themed environment that told a story. He designed another model of the attraction and described in minute detail every single scene to Walter Knott, from lighting to the sound effects and even the action. This time, Walter greenlit the attraction.
Now, the Calico Log Ride was a costly effort, and it cost over $2.5 million and took nearly a year to construct. It opened on July 11th, 1969, and screen legend John Wayne and his son John Ethan, they took the first ride down the flume. Now, the ride is housed in a mountain that's 300 feet long and 75 feet high. The flume itself is 2,100 feet long and 6 feet wide. The fiberglass logs, they each weigh 450 pounds apiece, and they carry 4 to 5 passengers, and that enables about 1,800 passengers an hour to board the 36 logs for a thrilling 4-minute journey. The free float system of logs did not employ any mechanical device to regulate the passage. So it was a fluid drive, which is water current. It was controlled by a pair of 125 horsepower pumps circulating 24,000 gallons of water per minute, and that caused the logs to rush through the flume at speeds ranging from 8 to 22 feet a second. And a reservoir of 350,000 gallons of water was required to maintain the entire flow of the flume.
That's a lot of numbers and statistics.
That was a ton of numbers.
Wow, that was impressive.
And we know I am not good with math already, so...
Well, we won't say that, neither one of us anyway. Okay, so once you were aboard the ride, passengers were able to see and experience what might have happened to actual loggers at the turn of the century. The mountain is constructed in 3 levels. From the point of departure, logs are lifted 36 feet by a conveyor belt, but it used to be chains, actually, to the entrance of the Calico Log and Lumber Company. Passengers then float into the mill to witness the operations, complete with mechanical and hand equipment, animated figures, and true-to-life sound effects. And after being stripped of their bark and sawed in the mills, the logs carrying the passengers soar down a 5-foot waterfall, land in the flume, and begin their free-floating journey.
Sweeping through the water on their own power, the log passes picturesque scenery and realistic settings while surging around over and through the entire mountain. Passing a forest of ponderosa pine, wild animals can be seen lurking in the thick underbrush. And floating under a waterfall, the logs slip through a trestle precariously clinging to the side of the cliff overlooking a deep ravine. Now the journey continues, passing many more animated scenes before the final plunge, shooting down a 42-foot incline, plunging with a big bow wave into the mill pond below.
So in January 2013, the ride closed to undergo a massive refurbishment. Over $5 million went into a 5-month overhaul to bring the ride up to today's standards. Garner Holt Productions stepped in to help create over 40 human animatronics, along with countless animal figures. And the refreshed version of the ride, now called the Timber Mountain Log Ride, keeps the same theme as the original, but updated it with the fantastic new animatronics and scenes. On May 30th, the ride reopened with a rededication ceremony attended again by John Ethan, the son of John Wayne, to help open the ride, just like he did with his father back in 1969. The ride continues to be the most popular attraction in the park, carrying over 2.7 million guests every year through the Calico Logging Company.
He's a nerd, he's a geek, but we all like to hear him speak. So listen up to the words from his speech. It's George's Book of the Week.
So Jeff, you're a big fan of the Artemis Fowl series of books, right?
I love those books.
Yeah. The author, name pronounced actually Eoin Coifer, but it looks like Ian, hard to say, Eoin Coifer, has just released a brand new series called Warp. And this is Warp number 1, The Reluctant Assassin. And I know we both got preview copies of it, and we both tore through this book like there was no tomorrow.
Yeah, this book was awesome because it contained a lot of things that we really enjoy. Go ahead, George. Tell them what it contains that we enjoy.
Okay. Time travel.
Boom. Instant win.
Exactly.
What more do you need to know?
It's like, end of the review, although people might want to know a little bit more information about it. So,
all right, fine.
I thought the coolest thing about this book was the idea behind it. It's called Warp. This is Warp number 1, so it's a new series. And Warp stands for Witness Anonymous Relocation Program. And they cover this pretty early in the book, what Warp is. They have time travel, with quantum, foamy physics, Michael Crichton type stuff. But whenever there's a big major trial and the FBI needs to hide somebody, they send them into the past to keep them safe.
How has no one thought of this idea before for a book series?
Exactly.
Or anything? I've never. Maybe somebody has, and I never heard of it. But what a great idea!
If we go back and once we get time travel, we can go back and take the idea from them.
We might have it now. We just don't know about it.
Let's wait till he writes all the books, and then we'll just go back.
Yeah, then we'll see.
We should probably do that with the Harry Potter books and the Star Wars franchise.
Snape kills Dumbledore. Sorry, guys.
Well, anyways.
Too soon? Too soon? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, well, that's okay. So what happens in the book is we meet Riley, a young teen from Victorian London, who is being forced to commit his very first murder, and he's very reluctant to do it. Hence the name, The Reluctant Assassin. It's in the name. He's pulled into 21st century London right at the beginning of the book, and he becomes entangled in the FBI's warp program. And he's hunted across the decades by his former master, and honestly, some amazing time travel really ensues. It was great.
And you know what? It's a book series, again, kind of like Artemis Fowl. It's aimed towards kids, like teenagers, but it's so smartly written that it kind of blew my mind. I thought it was fantastic, and it was very, very, very well done.
Yeah, it's the way he set up the time travel was very much like the first time you watch the Back to the Future movies. You're like, oh, they did this and then this happened.
Yeah, he sets a lot of things up that you think are, minor details, and they wind up being a huge deal later on because of the time travel, and it's great. Yeah,
like you said, it's geared towards teens. I think anybody who really likes something with a lot of suspense in it, very intelligently written with great characters, is going to love the book. What surprised me most is, when you watch a lot of stuff on television about Victorian London, you really don't think about the fact that you smell sulfur everywhere, or it's really dirty, or the water is unclean. And Coifer really does a good job of painting a picture of Victorian London that, you might want to visit, but you're not going to live there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's for sure. But I thought it was fantastic. I would recommend it.
I would highly recommend it as well. And it was released by Disney Hyperion Publishing.
Yes,
is that who
it's Hyperion. That's why we're talking about it.
That's why we're talking about it. Yes, of course.
Because Coifer is a Hyperion author, so to speak. So this book is called Warp Number 1, The Reluctant Assassin by Eoin Coifer.
What we liked, what we didn't like, Yeas and the Booze, 60-second review.
So on June 11th, 2013, Disney released a lot of Blu-ray DVD combo packs. And two we're going to talk about today are the Atlantis combo packs and the Emperor's New Groove combo packs. But let's talk about Atlantis first. I was never the biggest fan of the original Atlantis film. However, upon rewatching it on Blu-ray, it wasn't as bad as I remember it being.
It's a good way to review something.
Yeah, and that's probably the best review of it I'm gonna give you.
Yeah, Atlantis has got it's got a good cult following, I think. Sort of like the
we sound very sure of ourselves right now, guys. Very, very sure.
Yeah. I saw it in the movie theater, and that's the first time I walked out of the movie theater. I took my oldest son with me, who was at the time probably like 4 or 5. I think it was the first Disney movie we saw together. Walked out going, well, sort of entertaining, but missing that certain Disney magic.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
You know what it was better than, though?
What?
The second Atlantis movie. Because that was pretty terrible. And it was meant as an introduction to a television series that never really got off the ground. I think it was actually like 3 episodes combined into one to make a film, to introduce viewers to the TV show, and then it was terrible. So it was terrible.
wasn't yeah, I was gonna say it really wasn't even worthwhile even talking about. And what we found with this package is you're basically getting the movies.
Yeah, you're really not getting anything other. I mean, there's a couple of extras, but they're repackaged from the DVDs, and really the only reason to buy these if you don't own them already is because there's they're Blu-ray looking, and even the Blu-ray conversion really isn't that great. So we're basically telling you not to buy this Blu-ray, I guess.
Unless you're a huge fan of Atlantis and you want it on Blu-ray.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're a huge fan, obviously, by all means.
Yeah, of course, grab it for that. I mean, it does have a cult following. It's got that steampunk feel to it.
And Michael J. Fox is the voice of Milo,
Michael J. Fox
which is awesome.
The voice acting was really well done. It was Jim Varney's last Disney film.
Yep, and I loved me some Jim Varney.
He was really good, and it was sort of along the same period with the as Treasure Planet. That's got a big cult following to it. It's got a very steampunk vibe, but again, people say it's missing that Disney heart, which I kind of agree with. So
absolutely,
like we said, skip this one.
Yeah, skip it.
Skip it unless you love it. But we've got another film to talk about, the combo pack with the Emperor's New Groove
and Kronk's New Groove.
Kronk's New Groove.
I love Emperor's New Groove. I think it
Yes.
gets a bad rap.
Yes.
I know it was supposed to be something completely different at first, but we wound up with this, and I still find it enjoyable.
I repeat lines from the movie all the time without realizing it.
Because it is very quotable and very memorable.
No touchy, no touchy.
Yeah.
I say that all the time. And honestly, you know, Kronk was one of the more inventive characters, even though it's the same Patrick Warburton character. The way they played him really added a lot to the film with the playoff of Yzma
Yes, exactly.
itself.
Unfortunately,
But
I don't think he stands on his own in Kronk's New Groove.
No, Kronk's New Groove was basically an extension of a half-hour animated, you know, afternoon cartoon show that
But
just got
stretched out, yeah.
Got stretched out quite a bit, and it's just one of those things you're like, oh, okay, they're doing this, they're doing this, they're doing this. No big deal. No big
And
deal.
it also doesn't include any extras on this disc,
None
which is
whatsoever.
a
Yeah.
very bizarre choice, but I don't know. So I guess for this one, if you already own The Emperor's New Groove, there's really no reason for you to buy this. But if you don't and you haven't seen it before, definitely pick this up. I think this one's worth watching for The Emperor's New Groove alone.
I enjoyed that film. And the only thing we'll say a shout out to is, you know, they've also released Lilo and Stitch, which we talked about last week. We still, you know, it's still buy that one.
That one you should get. Definitely
That was
get
a
that one.
definite buy that one. But so, don't know why Disney's releasing them. We've got so many other great films that could be on Blu-ray with lots of great content, but maybe they're just throwing these out as summertime films.
Sometimes you might see it, sometimes you don't. Hey, look, what's that? It's a five-legged goat.
Who would have guessed it that other theme parks also have five-legged goats? Right,
What?
guys? I know it's crazy. Absolutely crazy. So, in the Timber Mountain log ride at Knott's Berry Farm, during the scene when you pass the campsite with the critters messing with the old man camping, you'll find a box that is right next to the campsite. Now, the box is addressed to B. Hurlbut. And like we mentioned in the history segment of the show, Bud Hurlbut was the man behind the attraction, designing it from top to bottom and making it the icon it is today. You want to know more about Bud Hurlbut? Well, teaser, we're going to talk about him at some point in the future. In the future.
That's time travel.
It is time travel.
Can we do that?
Yes, we have the technology.
Spoilers.
Sorry, we can't tell you how or when yet, but we know.
We'll do it. So.
Yes.
Well, thanks so much for watching, listening, and staying spoiler free.
Exactly, and be sure to leave us a comment and rate us on iTunes, especially if you want to enter in the contest.
Exactly. So after you rate us on iTunes, well, review us on iTunes, email us at communicoreweekly@gmail.com with your iTunes name, the review, and the date so we can enter you in the contest.
Also, be sure to like us on facebook.com/Communicore Weekly and refer your friends. And then there's another contest entry.
For them, too.
Yeah, exactly, for the both of you. Perfect.
You could probably steal their entry if you wanted to.
That's true, you probably could.
Well, anyways, follow both of us on Twitter. I'm at ImagineNerding and he's at Jeff Heimbuck. And for Jeff Heimbuck, I'm George Taylor.
And for George Taylor, I'm Jeff Heimbuck. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time on Communicore Weekly, the greatest online show.